This episode on Space 1999. It's the Eagle Transporter from Eaglemoss. And I justified this on the grounds that I had one when I was very, very little. As you may know, I have a LEGO Ideas project based upon one. And I managed to get this one with a grand total of £20 off the recommended retail price of £60 British, which even for my taste was a little bit on the steep side, but between a discount on the ship itself and the Halloween discount, I ended up with a good few percentage points off it. So I decided to indulge so that I could compare and contrast between this example and the other examples which you will see shortly. So let's get into it. Now, as I understand it, this is going to be a little bit different to the Eagles that I've had in the past, in that the pod doesn't actually open. Just having a quick look at the... It's actually a more detailed booklet than often comes with these more sort of bespoke sets. So there's a nice diagram there that may come in very useful for me as a comparison tool when the time comes, because if I need to ever restart my LEGO Ideas Eagle, I might be able to rejig it with that sort of reference material and make it a little bit more in proportion to the original, although it isn't actually the original. So they're also issuing the laboratory and side boosters versions of the Eagle there. And I think at least one of those is out now and the other one is imminent, so by the time you actually watch this you might well be able to get all of those. So I'll just pop that down. Let's have a look at the ship itself. Nice to see they've made a good effort with the leaflet though, because they aren't always as detailed as that. That's really interesting. Let's see she's not bad weight. A little bit lighter than I might have expected. A little bit greyer than I might have expected as well. Now this may well be the Dinky's fault, but I always think of them as being quite white. Realistically, they probably were a little bit greyer because, you know, moon dust and all that sort of good stuff. It's also going to be quite a vertical stand for this one. But there she is. I mean, even those windows are only sort of lightish grey. I'll be interested to hear people's comments on this, because when I spread this around the groups that I'm going to spread it around, linked wise, you will probably know better than I what is the best series appropriate colour for it. And yeah, I'd be interested to see your comments, because I'm not even sure this black area here is quite as it should be. I thought it had two vertical spokes coming off it as well. I'm just looking at it close. There is a little bit of, yeah, maybe they're there, but I don't think they're yeah, when you look at it in the right light, I don't know if you can make that out. There is a little bit of triangular suggestion there, but I'm not sure if they actually look right in terms of the actual you know, sort of the reference photos. Let's have a look at these renders in here. I'm not actually showing that view of it, strangely. No, maybe that is accurate. Actually, perhaps that's my mistake. So the reason I'm saying this is slightly different to ones that I've had before is that this pod is glued on. That ain't going anywhere. So you cannot detach the pod that makes this the Eagle Transporter. You can see all the landing thrusters there, exactly as you would expect. So yeah, it's a little bit more plasticky than I thought it was going to be. I can't actually. I'd be really surprised if this is the case, but I'm feeling for any of this being actually cold to the touch, because although it's got some weight to it, I'm not actually convinced that any of this is metal. I'm surprised at that because they're normally advertised as being die-cast models, but I can't feel, just from feel, any of that being die-cast. I'm happy to be contradicted by somebody, but I cannot feel any die-cast on there at all, which for an Eaglemoss model at this price, I think is rather disappointing. I'm really, I'm surprised by that. If they haven't bothered making any of that out of metal, I am a little bit surprised. I'm just feeling around. It just doesn't. None of it feels metallic to me. I don't know if there's a spine in there that's metallic. Ironically, this is one of the few Eaglemoss models, as with the dropship from Aliens, you can actually just plonk down. It doesn't actually need its stand as such. So I will get it stand out, so I normally do for these endeavours, and it looks like it will just looking to see if they've actually made it. Oh, I see. They've made it so you can just slot it sort of between the landing struts on the transporter pod. So that's how it would sit on its stand like this. Let's see it better from that angle, I think. So let me show you now how this looks up against my version and a very, very old version of the Eagle. So if I move this over here so that it's still in shot, this is my LEGO Ideas adaptation of it. Now, as you can see, mine is not spot on. In the CGI renderings, I have added the windows here and here, so it's more accurate. Mine is taller and shorter because it's intended to be a one-person Eagle. So, as you'll appreciate, this is quite large for a LEGO model to start with. If you try and make this minifigure scale for 2 pilots, it's huge, and it won't be accepted for LEGO Ideas. There'll be too many parts, basically. And I've seen the pictures ones, and they are huge. But as you can see, what I can do is get one Space 1999 Moonbase Alpha equipped astronaut in there, and these areas here would have appropriate screens, graphics on for screens and so on. But it just means that you can actually fit a minifigure in there, which I think for playability purposes is good. And obviously in the series, this was a sort of a detachable module, which is what I've gone for. The transport pod also happily detaches, and in here there is also a yellow moon buggy. It's also very straightforward to take the rear engine section off, and then you can actually mess around with that in theory, and then get a little sort of wide turn the eaglet out of it, so you can make another little mini ship out of it if you wish. And obviously at the end of the day, it's Lego, so there's a lot of playability with it from there. So it's free to support on LEGO Ideas if you would care to. And let me now show you something slightly more unusual, which is a very, very original Eagle. And there you have the Eagle toy, or very close to the Eagle toy that I had growing up. And that is the Dinky Toys Eagle Transporter. It's the green flavoured one with yellow reaction control jets there. And that's relatively unusual. They normally had red ones. So I believe this is quite an early one, but I have to admit that the transporter pod on there is not, I think, the original one that came with the ship. Because as I understand it, these windows on it are not the right colour. You can see they're quite clear. I think they should be red. So I don't think that pod was actually the original one, and obviously that's an open box. Nice original box, mine, but it is opened and it's not. So I can't claim that it's in mint condition. But this is exactly the sort of one that I grew up with. And I was guilty of having nobbled 2 of the engines at the back off it, and I stuck the nose into the fire because it was die cast and it could take it. But this one was the inspiration for this, and it was actually these girder pieces here that prompted me to think about making this one, because obviously getting that sort of girder design, and you can see it's very similar to the girders along here, but you can't get that in Lego normally. There's a specific piece which I've used there, and Lego do it in white, but it's very, very rare. So if Lego were to produce one along these lines, then they could do it, because obviously they can produce the pieces in whatever colours they want, so you could get a lot closer. I mean, it's really interesting for me just looking at these alongside each other on a screen. I have done it before briefly with the older Dinky, but you can see that the Eaglemoss one is probably, well, it is more show accurate than the Dinky was, and that does sort of inform the way that I'm looking at my Lego version of it, because I know that people who are fans of the show would, you know, really also want a good level of accuracy from these things, and Lego would actually redesign mine if it did make it to be a set, but it's a fair way off at the moment. I'm hoping to get at least 1,999 supporters for obvious reasons. That would be nice. I'm not too far off that. I've got 4 months left to go, so if you would care to support it, that would be lovely. And yeah, I mean, as I say, I'm a little bit disappointed by the Eaglemoss one not being more metallic. Most of the sets that I have looked at from Eaglemoss have been die cast to some degree, and obviously in that respect, the old Dinky is very die cast, and that's why they've survived as long as they have, because they are very old sets now. I mean, they must be, that's probably 45 years old now, and it's still really good. So I think for the price they're charging, it's unfortunate that that is all plastic. I would have liked at least something on there to have been metal. And as I say, you know, I'm happy to hear in the comments if I'm wrong. But otherwise, you know, that just seemed a bit of a shame. So that's it. That's my that is actually the extent of my eagle collection at the moment. There are some really nice eagles out from a company called 1612 as well, and there have been various flavors released over time, which, you know, they are pricey. I mean, in that sense, as compared with the more sort of limited edition ones, the Eaglemoss one is not bad value if you just want to display an eagle on your shelf and you're not too concerned about durability. It'll do you fine. And, you know, looking at it closely, the detailing on it is very, very good. I mean, you can see that I threw a little bit of red on my eagle in places, because I knew that there was red here on the eagles. It's difficult to do with Lego because obviously you need, you know, out and out big red pieces to do it. But yeah, I wanted to try and indicate that I was conscious of that, if nothing else. So yeah, so I hope that's been of use to you if you were thinking about, or if you are thinking about getting the Eaglemoss model. At least now you know you have some idea of scaling. I mean, to give you an idea, if I hold this above that one, you can see there's not a huge amount in it, but it is slightly bigger than the Dinky original. But you can see that, you know, there is a lot of detail on the Eaglemoss as compared to the Dinky that you just don't get. And obviously the Eaglemoss one is properly grey/white rather than being bright green, which they really weren't. But that's what Dinky decided to go for. So yeah, so that's that. I hope that's of use to you. And I say please do leave comments, subscribe to the channel. There are a number of other Eaglemoss ships that I've reviewed. They're not all Star Trek ones, so do have a look around while you're here. And thanks for your time. Cheers for now.